Hey guys, Axelmyth here, coming at you with another video. Luigi has been a staple of the Mario franchise for 40 years at this point. He's been in basically every single mainline Mario game since the mid-80s. And despite one or two disappearances. Yeah, Mario Bros. 2, both American and Japanese version, gave him a higher jump and made it clear that Luigi needed a new pair of shoes, dude. But it wasn't until the early 2000s with Luigi's Mansion that he became more than just a clone of Mario. And other Mario RPGs, such as Paper Mario, could even make you feel bad for the guy. And back in my early years, back when I was about 5 or 6, I would have loved a traditional Mario game where you literally just played as Luigi. And it wasn't until 10 years ago that had happened. I'm not really sure what happened back in 2013, back when the Harlem Shake was such a giant meme. So much so that Nintendo made one themselves. Yeah, let's never talk about that again. It was just kind of decided by Nintendo that year that would just be the year of Luigi. And I know that's like his 30th anniversary or whatever, but like, how much of that was an actual coincidence and how much of that was planned? Because like, I could totally see Nintendo just kind of working on some Luigi-centric titles and then just being like, oh, that's his 30th. We should probably do something for that. I also kind of remember there being like some sort of hype for this, but I honestly don't know if that was just from me internally or if there actually was. As we've kind of established, I'm pretty Luigi biased. Either way, I am calling this the year of Luigi 2, whether Nintendo cares or not. And all I really want to do is go back, take a look at the phenomenon 10 years ago that was the year of Luigi, and maybe talk about a few other ways that you can even play Luigi beside the obvious, like sports game and Smash Brothers, whatever.
These include letting Mario die and playing Luigi with one life in the original Mario Brothers. Not the optimal way to play Luigi, but hey, it's a new challenge, I guess. Or my personal favorite, in Super Mario Advance 2, you're able to give and take away lives between the brothers, so you can transfer them from Mario over to Luigi, then have fun with 5 lives as Luigi. Or just play Super Mario Bros. 2. That's an option. Anyway, let's get this thing going. Oh, good old creepiness. Giving little kids nightmares for hundreds of years now. You want to know what was really creepy? The first Luigi's Mansion. That's right, back in 2001 A Space Odyssey happened and Luigi got his own video game. Because Mario educational games don't exist. Except maybe Mario Paint. Mario Paint's cool. Anyway, the first entry in the series is just so different and such a darker, verging on scary compared to its later counterparts. That has everything to do with the environment. Sure, this is a little stylistic, but for the most part I could actually see this building being an actual place somewhere in the world, and actually look this creepy. This game has lighting in such a way that even in lighted rooms, most of them are still very unsettling, and it's just so good. This game used to scare me when I was 4 years old, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there. The story is Luigi somehow won a mansion in a contest that he didn't ever enter, and Mario went to check it out and got captured, and here we are at the beginning of the game. The thing I like about this story is that it unfolds. There's more to it than just that. And I'm talking about the portrait ghosts. And not only how they escape, but also who's the one who probably painted them to begin with. It's just something we don't see in later games. At least not to this eerie extent. I'm not gonna lie, the gameplay does have a bit of I am the first itis. Sometimes you have to suck something up with a vacuum and shoot it back out. That can be very cumbersome and just doesn't work flat out sometimes, and actually activating Ghost's vulnerability can be a little more difficult than in other games. It's just something that's kind of a pain, you know what I mean? Other than some minor issues like that, this game is really fun to go back to. It's so satisfying to finally get a ghost down, end a chapter to see the machine do its work, and most of all be ranked at the end of the game with how much gold you were able to pick up, and see how happy Luigi is at the end to see his brother. Pretty heartwarming stuff here. Stay away from 3DS version of this game. I know GameCube stuff can be a lot more expensive, but I can 100% say, having played both rather recently, that the GameCube version has a superior experience. Though, I will admit, it was really cool to see this be ported to something else. So that leads us to the second in the series, Luigi's Mansion 2, later to be called Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. You don't think we don't remember, Nintendo? You think we're stupid? We know what you did. Unfortunately, I cannot collect footage of this game, but I can tell you that this is my personal favorite of the franchise, and objectively the best. It says so right here in the Book of Acts of the Apostles, chapter 9, verse 1-2. For so I tell you, now that I have made it to Rome, Luigi's Mansion 2 will be the best video game in the franchise when it comes to be in approximately 2,000 years, and thou canst saith a thing to waver the words in which I say. See? Right there, can't argue with the Bible. The story is Egad, a character who's in all these games by the way, was doing some research into the ghosts in this cul-de-sac of mansions, and the reason why they are good, the Dark Moon. King Boo, not so subtly, destroys the thing, and Egad asks Luigi for help. King Boo also has Mario, for some reason. And I mean, like, they've been teasing it all throughout the game, and then they finally show it, and it's like, oh my word! And you're just like, yeah, no. Okay, that's not surprising at all, you literally said that. This game has gotten criticism as of late because of the mansion-based levels being too repetitive, which is totally valid. It's also pretty unclear how to actually get 3 stars on a mission, nor are you ranked at the very end of the game. But to be fair, I don't know how you would even do that since you can just keep spamming missions to collect more money. So having kind of a gap on upgrades and then not ranking you at the very end kind of makes sense, I guess. But it still kind of sucks that it's not included. The money thing is also kind of another gripe. After you collect all the upgrades to the Poltergeist, there really isn't anything you can do with the coins. So after that, there's not much point in even collecting them. But don't get me wrong, there's still a reason to explore because of the diamonds. They're mostly just a bragging right, which is unfortunate, but hey, it's something that adds replay value, and credits due where credits due, and they're pretty fun and easy to collect. But anyway, I just feel like this was how a Luigi's Mansion should control, especially with the flash mechanic, making it easier than ever to catch ghosts. Keep in mind, I played on a new 3DS XL where you have that little nub as a second joystick, so I didn't have to deal with the motion controls. I have heard they aren't the best, but not the worst either. So now we move on to the third in the totally not Ghostbusters video games. The story is Princess Peach and the bros are invited to what appears to be a newly formed mansion where every freaking buddy is way too creepy. Anyway, as you can guess, Mario and the princess are kidnapped, and it's up to Green Boy to save the day. It's not a deep story, but it gets things going, I guess. This one has a bit more character to it personally. I really like the new portrait ghost, and the dynamic between the host and King Boo is really neat. But I do have some problems with this one personally. First of all, the cat's just annoying. If you fought it only once, it would be fine. But 3 times you fight that thing. It's a bit too much for the wait and hit the mini-boss game. Also, this game controls seem to be a bit inconsistent. Like, sometimes the second joystick would work like the previous 2 games, and other times Luigi just wants to lock onto something and not let me actually control what I want to shoot my plungers at. Out of all of them, Luigi's Hotel 3 is probably the most accessible, so I would recommend starting with this entry. I mean, it's not like there's some deep lore running between these 3 games. These are just fun.
Oh, who could that be? Luigi?
Here you go. Want to know what's not fun? Massacre. Super Luigi U is our next game here, and to be honest, I really don't have much to comment about it. Pretty much everything is about exactly like Super Mario Bros. U. The looks, the gameplay, the story. There are 3 exceptions to that though. First, the levels are very short, and there is a reason for that, I will grant you. 2, they gave Luigi ice physics and a higher jump, honestly as to be expected of a game of such Luigiist caliber. Glorious. 3, these levels are hard. Not in an unbeatable hard, but they do put up a very good challenge. It's only when you attempt to get the giant golden coins does it go from great challenge to overcome just flat out unfun. I think it goes without saying, that's why they made these levels short, so they would be somewhat tolerable to attempt to complete. They still failed. But there is a game that is slightly better suited to your 2D Luigi needs, and it's hidden behind a different game entirely. NES Remix 2 on the Wii U. I believe physically it only came out as a duo pack with the first one. And as of recording this video, you can't even access the Wii U's eShop, so that sucks. Either way, we have Super Luigi Bros. On the Wii U. What is this game, you may ask? It's literally Super Mario Bros. For the NES on mirror mode, with the accepted Luigi physics. Actually, it's not as bad as long as you like the original Super Mario Bros. I sort of wish Nintendo would release this on its own for more people to enjoy, but what are you gonna do, I guess? You know, you could totally put this out on the eShop by itself for like $10, and I'm sure people would flock to it.
Oh, Luigi! Wanna play doctor?
Oh yeah.
Now here's a decent little time waster on the Wii U. Actually, one I think the Switch also needs. Dr. Luigi. It's like Dr. Mario, but your pills are in the shape of an L. Something you should know about me is that I'm not very good at these types of games at all. But there I was, on normal mode, at level 22. And I only stopped because I kinda got bored, and felt like I needed to record some of the other games I wanted to look at. It's fun, but I don't think I'd pay more than $5 to play this one. There's really just not that much here. But I'm a sucker and paid $20 for it. Next up on the Green Menace is the Mario & Luigi RPG spanning from the Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS, where I played all of them on the 3DS. So I don't want to give the rundown on all of them, mostly because I've already done that for some. The one I wanted to talk about today is Mario & Luigi Dream Team on the 3DS. This is the one that was part of the Year of the Luigi tagline, and it's got its own Sweet Silver Special Edition 3DS. But the thing I remember most about this game when it came out was those weird commercials with the Luigi costume. I was a weird kid who actually liked commercials on TV as a kid, but not on YouTube for some reason. Yeah, screw that. And I can honestly say, I miss commercials like this, and I wish commercials and ads on social media would be the art they used to be. As for the game itself, it is a very good and fun game. I do feel as though they tend to over-explain things a bit too much, and even stuff that you have already done. It's probably not the best idea to play this right after Bowser's Inside Story remake on the 3DS, because the gameplay of both are very similar, instead of any sort of extension of the gameplay that it probably should have been. So because I sort of made this mistake, it's started to kind of overstay its welcome. There was also a part where I almost rage quit because it expected you to aim with the motion controls, and although it worked well, it was difficult to see what you were aiming at. But from what I remember, it was the only part. So this game is still really good. Next thing I thought was pretty weird was that Nintendo announced Luigi was going to be a part of Mario Tennis. Like, was that really a shock? Were they just not going to put him in this time, but were like, 2013? Isn't that Luigi's 30th anniversary? I guess now we have to put him in this game now. Then the last game I want to look at today is the one and only, the only main 3D Mario game that came out for the Wii U, Super Mario 3D World. But why a Mario game, you may ask? Well, it's because of all the Luigi Easter eggs in here. Around some corners and even entire hidden areas usually have a Luigi sprite around somewhere. I can't confirm if it's every level in every world, but it's at least once per world. It's honestly pretty cool, and there are videos that show you all of them. I suggest looking those up. The game aesthetics are sort of weird. Instead of previous Mario game with the camera behind them as a third-person platformer, this title goes for an isometric view. They did this specifically for the multiplayer, and I guess it works fine for that. But when you're playing by yourself, it feels very odd and sort of limiting, and it makes it difficult to make accurate jumps. You can control the camera slightly, but it doesn't help a whole heck of a lot. I'm gonna be real here, I'm not a giant fan of this game's graphics either. Everything, especially the characters, look plastic and shiny. Nobody's looking for realism in a Mario game. But Mario Sunshine and even Mario Galaxy didn't have a plasticky look to this extent. Like, the effect is something I expect out of a Lego game, not necessarily a cartoon game. There is a difference. The levels themselves aren't that bad, but it's sort of hard to see this as an actual world. But I guess they're serviceable enough. The biggest issue I have is that these levels aren't themed like in other 2D Mario titles. Some have certain gimmicks, but unfortunately none of the levels really stick out in my mind, except the Captain Toad levels and the occasional dinosaur ride. Most of the levels just have the same look to them, and any sort of theme a level may have is repeated in 7 of the 9 worlds. World 8 is one giant Bowser castle, and it doesn't get that repetitive, but it's still what I'm talking about should be in the rest of the game. World 9 gets its own theme, which you would think is interesting, and in the world map it is, but most of the time the theme is that it's just dark. The final world is supposed to be some sort of Bowser City, but it just left me feeling like it would be much more interesting if we actually went through the city via each level, and you got progressively closer to Bowser's Tower, each level closer to the end. The controls are fine, I guess. They at least work. The main issue is that the characters only go in 8 directions, which is literally only up, down, left, right, and straight diagonal between those. And I just didn't feel like the stages or enemy placements kept that in mind very often. Granted, it's easier to get used to when you're using a D-pad. 100% not the best way to play this game, but it works. Just a giant problem with this game because it messes you up when you're trying to stomp on an enemy or trying to platform carefully. That's all. And it's not helped with the isometric view this game has. So obviously, like I said, this is not my favorite Mario title, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad game. I can tell you why people love and have fun with this game. It obviously doesn't look like the worst game ever either. I've seen that. This is nowhere close to that. The thing I really just can't say is that this game is boring. That would simply just not be true. It's honestly a blast when you get your friends and maybe your kids involved and just play. This is definitely one to buy out of any of these I've talked about today, and with it out on Switch, it became even more accessible. This is 100% a good game, but I just have fun with other Mario titles instead.
So, that was pretty much the entire lineup of the Year of Luigi games, and I think it was filled with some pretty decent games. Now, do I think that this was just as good as like any Mario or Legend of Zelda anniversary? And honestly, I do. But anyway, what was your favorite game from this lineup? And do you even think that the Year of Luigi was justified? Like, did you care enough? Were you part of the hype? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is Axel Myth, and I'll see you next time. You've been Luigi rolled.